welcome. I'm Anuradha Sengupta and I'm very happy to introduce to you a new series on CNBC TV 18. We are calling it the Double X Factor. It's a show about women for everybody. Now, the name of the series obviously alludes to the chromosome that makes some of us special, but I think it also stands for a couple of things simultaneously. One, the unique challenges that life throws up before women, and two, the incredible ability women have to cope with these challenges. So, on the show today, find out how, as more women work, how companies manage gender equations and fashion crimes and misdemeanors that some of us are prone to commit. And that's not all. Every week we are going to get you the story of one woman who lets us peek into her workday and her worldview. Today it's going to be Vinita Bali, the Managing Director and CEO of the 3,500 crore rupee biscuit, bread and dairy maker Britannia Industries. And we're going to meet the person and woman behind the designation. Hi, Vinita.
Hi.
Busy day today?
One of the usual ones when I'm in the office.
I think this is a theory of mine, that when women get to where you are, there are two things that can happen. One is they tend to underplay or downplay the gender part of their being and focus and like the attention to be focused on their professional avatar. And there is the other category where women tend to go out of their way to take up the cause of women. Which one do you fall into?
You know, frankly, I haven't thought of it that way, but I do definitely believe that in the corporate world, you know, people like me who are in a position to do something and can influence not just policies but also practices in the corporate world, I certainly am very active in terms of ensuring or working towards getting a better diversity across genders. You know, I do it for Britannia quite overtly and openly, because I believe in it. I really believe that equal opportunity is what all genders require, and then competency has to take over. But you know, the gender debate can only give place to a competency debate after there is equality of opportunity, not before.
The number of women in the workforce has really leapfrogged, and we've got, you know, numbers to prove that. What is it in Britannia? I mean, in terms of your total strength and the percentage of women overall?
Overall, if we were to look at Britannia, we're about 15%. And again, you know, the interesting anecdotal information is when I started about 5 years ago, there were 3 women managers in Britannia. And we're now talking about over 42, 43. When you look at the level of management trainees over the last two years, we've got 50%. We've got an equal number of men and women joining Britannia. If I were to look at lateral hires, we've increased that to about 25%. And I'll tell you, it's not just in functions like, you know, HR or finance. We've got women in Britannia who are in the factories, who are doing a quality assurance job, who are doing a capability job. We've got, you know, women obviously in R&D. We've got women in finance and so on. My ultimate dream is to have a factory manager who's running a factory, who's a woman, and I'm still
looking for her. So that's a recruitment ad that just went out there. From what we found out in this report that we're just about to play is that the number of women in the workforce, in the organized sector, across almost all industry types, from consumer goods to media, is on the rise. And companies are going out of their way to have to devise policies, not just to cater to the special needs that women may have as part of the workforce, but also to manage gender equations between men and women, the new equations, the new equilibrium that's getting created because so many women are getting into the workforce. And let's find out what some of these companies are doing.
In the heart of India's financial capital, thousands of women start their day in the local trains. If they are lucky, they get to ride the ladies' specials. But at the end of the journey, are workplaces that don't offer such concessions. According to the Labour Ministry's data, in March 2007, women made up 19.5% of the workforce in the organised sector. That's about 53 lakh women, up from 49 lakhs in 2000. While this is improving gender diversity, it is also changing the equations women have with men, both at work and at home.
If there is a female boss and a male colleague is reporting to a female boss, it is a better way of functioning, and vice versa, where there's a male boss and a female person is reporting into a male boss. But where there is a female boss and a female colleague is reporting into a female boss, they tend to have ego clashes.
They can't take the instruction from a female boss, but that is comparatively diluted now.
We've come from schools where we had co-ed schools, girls and boys were studying together. So when we come to a workplace, the transition is pretty easy. There's a comfort level between male colleagues and female colleagues.
I do have come across some people who feel that, oh, she's a woman, so we don't need to give her that much of importance.
For every positive experience, there are many negative ones, and companies are working overtime to create a new equilibrium as harmoniously as possible. At India's largest consumer goods company, Hindustan Unilever, the percentage of women has jumped fourfold, from around 5% at the beginning of the decade to almost 23% today. The company feels it's imperative not to just have policies that encourage women to work by providing for their special needs, but also to ensure that men don't get alienated as a result.
Many of our policies had its origins 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever we thought of them first as policies that would help women balance their life and careers. But we figured out very quickly that this is an issue for both men and women and made it much more universal for all. So, like I said, today we do not have a single policy that's only for women. It's for men and women. In the way how careers are managed, in the way they can take flexibility, in the way, for example, we have a maternity leave of 6 months for women and we have a paternity leave of 2 weeks for the men. So we've, as much as possible, we've tried to make it easier for men and women both in this organization. Because just as women are getting career oriented, it means that the number of dual careers are going up. So the men are equally facing challenges of having to balance work and life.
In the relatively newer IT and BPO industries, as well as in insurance and financial services, women make up an almost equal number to men. But the numbers tend to dwindle, and the ratio turns favorable to men as you go up the organizational hierarchy.
50% of our workforce at the associate level and at the team leader level are women. As we go higher up, about 25% of the workforce at the VP plus level and the AVP plus level are women. So basically, we managed to attract large number of women to come and work with us as associates, and these are people who work with us in the night shift and in the day shift, and they sort of compete with men on a day-to-day basis. At senior levels, the ratio drops a little bit, and as a company, we've been conscious and we've put in lots of policies to attract more women to come and work at higher levels and to improve our gender diversity ratio.
And then there's the tricky issue of fraternizing at work. While some companies have a strict policy against married couples in the same organization, others take a more generous view. Romances and marriages are acceptable as long as the individuals are not in a reporting relationship with each other.
We're very happy to have couples working with us, but we try and manage conflict of interest issues. So if there's a boss-subordinate relationship, then we try and see that both are moved to different departments and they're not in a relationship where they're in an appraisal relationship where somebody has to appraise and evaluate somebody else's performance in a boss-subordinate relationship.
You can't say that I have a guy colleague and he must behave with me in this particular way, because as your working relationship progresses, you tend to become friendly with him, and there are certain things which are allowed and which are not allowed, and every relationship needs to draw its line.
I personally met my fiance currently in this particular office, and we'll be getting married this year. So when we started dating, we were not really open about it, and now we are engaged, so everybody in office is aware about the same.
Cases of sexual harassment are the ugliest breakdown of gender relations at the workplace and the most complex to solve. All companies claim they have a zero-tolerance policy and are guided by the Supreme Court's Vishaka guidelines of 1997. Even as more women come out in the open about being harassed, men say they are no longer the only people who can be the perpetrators.
It's something that that gets dealt with fairly seriously as a company if we come across something like this, and it could lead to a termination of an employee if we find that the case is genuine and the employee has been aggrieved.
Even in countries where women have been working for much longer and in larger numbers, fractured gender equations and discrimination continues. Just this week, 3 former women employees of Goldman Sachs have filed a lawsuit against the investment bank for sexual discrimination. To prevent that level of breakdown, men, women and organizations have to stay on guard all the time.
Making the case then to sensitize everybody. Let's find out what Vinita Bali is up to. She had said she would be getting into an operations review meeting. Let's find out how far down the road that has gone. Let me just check.
Similarly, Delhi is very
What is the budget that we've got? Actually, I'm more interested.
Okay, that's still going to take some time. So why don't we take a commercial break and then catch up with her when we come back.